week 20. Week 20 of the Monday morning meeting, and it looks like now I'm back live, a little bit of a buffering session there. So we are this week going to be joined by Brian Croft. Brian is a longtime friend of mine. We worked together. We actually met many years and a number of jobs ago. So we'll get Brian on camera here quick. I'll add you there. Good morning, John Larson. How are you, Arctic Tundra? Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. So sounds good. I think I saw a text. I just kind of breezed through it real quick right before we started up. Says you can't see comments or whatever. Is that what that was?
Well, yeah, I probably could, but I don't think I'm good enough at these to do that.
It's okay, because when you get rid of those comments, you get rid of the distractions. And it's hard to stay on track when you're reading all of those. So I was just saying, I'm live. You're live. I am here in the Super 8 studios of Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh man, that's a good looking Super 8.
Right? This is probably the nicest Super 8 that I've stayed in, actually. So the other thing is, now this week, I should have made an applause card because I have a live studio audience, right?
Ooh, nice. Off camera.
Right. I couldn't get her to sit with me. She says she can't add to our stuff, but she will. We'll get her on here in the future, and look forward to having that. So you've watched our Monday morning shows. I know you've watched quite a few of them. You are currently, it is 6 o'clock your time, if I'm not mistaken. You are in, Hillsboro, Oregon, a suburb of Portland, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So I started to say, and I thought, I'm going to wait till I get you on camera because I can't remember the very first time that I had heard your name. And was it Stadium Yamaha where you were?
Yes, probably. Yes, that's correct.
Yep. So,
it's not anymore, but it was.
Right. So you were working at Stadium Yamaha. Actually, I currently am in your old stomping grounds.
Yep. Here
in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Yep. And I think it was you that taught me they are two separate cities and don't confuse the two.
Correct. Yes. Oh. They don't much appreciate that.
No. That's not what they appreciate about us from up north, saying those incorrect city names.
Right.
So a little bit of history between you and I. We go back to you. We came in looking for you at Stadium Yamaha when I was working with Primo Murato at Scott USA, if I'm not mistaken. You were off that day, right?
It's probably riding my dirt cycle.
Probably. And then we worked together at Scott for 4 years or so, and then you went off and got a job with, I think it was Factory Honda at the time, right?
Correct.
Is that where you went from there? And then we worked together again at Rojo, and then you now currently is at Trader Interactive. Give us just a brief story of what you do.
Oh, geez. I don't know if there's a brief version. I think Joe mentioned on last week's deal, he mentioned dealerships being like the bartender.
Yep.
Hearing a lot of the stories and fixing the problems, or at least being the ear to cry on. I don't know if cry on an ear, but I think I do a lot of that, and I look for ways to solve problems for dealers at Trader. So the role I'm in is a consultant, advertising consultant to dealers.
Okay.
Power sports and RV.
Which is a good segue into what you're doing now, which we're not. I mean, you're still doing that, so you're starting a little dream project that we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Along the same lines of what Joe and I have been trying to accomplish with the show, right? So stay tuned. We're going to let you know what Brian's got coming up. We're going to talk about my lesson number 3, lessons at the racetrack. You're an old race guy. I think you've been posting some photos from the 1900s here over the last few days, right?
It's accurate, yes, sadly.
Not that we've been riding that long, but the 1900s for us children was not that long ago.
Wooden wheels and all.
Right. Different sized bolts for traction depending on the track you were at. So
yeah.
So number 3, so lesson number 1 was how in the racing world, it really doesn't begin at the starting line. You probably remember that, and that's just about all the preparation that goes on behind the scenes before you even get started. Lesson number 2 was how it can all end in the first turn. And the lesson learned there is what you do with that first upset is going to determine how you finish the race. And that, in business also works the same way. And then, I talked about having 12 different races every year. So you can crash and burn one race and do a lot better the other 11, and your year's going to finish out fine. So if you took a big hit right off the bat in January, dust yourself off. It all starts over in February, right? So number 3, the lesson I learned is goals in order are easier to attain. So what I mean by that is, when you first started racing, I mean, your goal was first to get to the track to take that first starting gate and actually enter a race. That was kind of the first goal as you start practicing and, tearing it up around your backyard and learning how to do things. Well, then once you get that start under your belt, now you want to finish on the lead lap. And then, some kids, they just want to finish. They want to win. They want to win and win and win. And that's all there is. And they don't understand the steps it takes to get there. So what I did was, or what I got pretty good at was setting goals, as I say, in order. So you want to finish on the lead lap. Then you want to finish in the top, you want to beat one guy. Then you want to finish in the top 50%, and then 10 and 5 and 3, 2 and 1 and so on. And then as I started getting faster, in racing, it's C class, B class, A class, or however they novice, intermediate, expert, depending on where you're at. The goal was then to be as fast as the last place guy in the class above. So when I was and I remember coming up with that when I was a B class rider, going, man, I want to be as fast as the guy in last place on A class. Which maybe I already was, but I didn't get to race against him, so I didn't know, right? So then, once you make it to A class, then you start the goals all over again. You want to finish on the lead lap, because once you get there, you realize, man, these guys are really fast. So that was my lesson learned at the racetrack, and it's kind of a short one this week because there's not a whole lot to talk about. You want to celebrate, as you accomplish these goals. One thing I want to remind people to do is celebrate each small accomplishment. You always hear the saying in motivational speakers and stuff, celebrate your victories. Well, that could be, your first top 5 finish. It could be your first top 3. Obviously, your first win, you're going to celebrate that. But what you want to do is make sure you're allowing yourself to appreciate the fact that things are going better. Things are getting better, and you're doing better.
Craig, did you ever do any visualization?
I did, which is funny you bring that up, because
I don't want to ruin another lesson,
No.
one of your lessons, but that's when you're talking about that, that's immediately what I think of is, sitting on the line before the start of a race, and how scary that is, and how you can go to a whole other place visually. Just close your eyes and visualize the first couple of laps.
Yeah, and go ahead. Yeah.
No,
I visualize things.
That just like that, very simply. I was no pro at it. I was no meditation guru. I would just sit on the line. Back then, I'm trying to remember, it's been 1 million years, again, like you said, the 1900s, since that was the case, wooden wheels and all racing. But I remember sitting on the line, no goggles, but helmet on, ready to go. Of course, probably had my mom sitting next to me, with a video camera trained on me, laughing about something. And just remember closing my eyes and sitting there. And of course, I would every moment think through the gate falling, jumping out to the lead. You visualize what you wanted to see. Of course, you just visualize the best example. And honestly, I don't do enough of that nowadays. Thinking back on it, makes sense. We should all do some of that with the things we want to see. But it worked very well for me, and I got a lot of starts, and can't say I was finished as well. Maybe I need to visualize longer than 2 laps. 2 lap visualization. Yeah.
No, that's a good point, because now that you say that, I don't visualize that anymore. I see the vision, I see where I want to be, but yeah, I don't visualize the travels or the trip there. But yeah, I did a lot of that, and actually visualization comes in a lot of the lessons learned at the racetrack. And yeah, I did that exact same thing. I would sit at the starting line, and I I didn't close my eyes because I would visualize, I would look right down the direction I was going to go. I would pick that tire track, you know, in the dirt and say, I'm going to follow that one. I'm going to go a little bit right of it there. And then, yeah, you picture, you know, where the braking bumps are going to be. You kind of know what the obstacles are. And I would visualize myself getting over those, getting to be the first one there and, you know, out jumping everybody and railing corners faster than anybody. And it didn't always work out, but yeah, I visualized a lot. That's a great thing to add. So look at you, you're a natural.
Oh, look at me.
Even at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I have a face for radio. You have your fancy lighting and your face looks all pretty.
Yeah.
Mine's all like got the blue light shining.
You know, my makeup staff was awesome this morning. They were
bet.
on point. They shined up this side of my face,
Nice.
so it looks like I got a good light over here.
Tear your little makeup bib off, the little napkin that goes around your neck, not to mess your shirt up.
Right. Did you hear my studio audience? They were
I
cheering for
did.
the makeup crew.
I
It was
did,
awesome.
man. Hey, what city are you staying in right now? Are you in Fort Worth, or where's the meeting?
I believe we are in Fort Worth,
Okay.
the Super 8 here, and the sales meeting is in Fort Worth.
Okay.
So the lesson here, just real quick, we'll wrap this up. We're 11 minutes in. So the lesson here is sometimes you need to make more than one goal at a time. And I remember with Wild Ass, we had some, you know, same thing, started very, very small. And I remember we hit a pretty decent number and we went down to a friend's place just down the road and we celebrated. There was some wine and some good conversation and we actually celebrated. It was a very small number, but we did it. So we try to live by it. Celebrate your goals so then you can actually, you feel the accomplishments you're making instead of always being, you know, the finish line is so far away, right? That's kind of the big lesson is just keep focused on the finish line, but don't be afraid to celebrate the small victories along the way because you need that to keep moving forward.
And visualize.
Visualize that end. Visualize being in the front at the end also.
Well, yeah, visualize. Yeah, visualize what you want to see, not the scary thing.
Right. Stay focused on the positives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my whole week 20 lesson number 3 in the race lessons. And one thing, so I'm really super excited to have you on here. Thank you for covering for Joe this week.
Oh, for sure.
Joe is in sales meetings this morning. I sent him a text message right off the bat this morning and he didn't reply.
Party in Joe's room.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll be at the same place as them guys tonight. So we'll see all of them, all of the Tucker people. Hi guys, we'll see you tonight. But we will be there at the show. I'm rambling now, but we're gonna get back to this. Thank you for covering for Joe this week. We both appreciate it for sure. And we know you have something value added. Otherwise we wouldn't bring it. And you already did, visualize it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I wanted to kind of call you out. You've been, and I don't know how long this has been a dream for you or you've been talking about doing it, but I may or may not have finally pushed you over the edge. Just saying.
You're very bossy. You're pretty bossy.
Yeah.
I got someone back in my play over there, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So you've been talking about doing this for a long time, and like I said, along the same lines as Joe and I are doing here, trying to help dealerships, you're taking a completely different approach, which I think is very cool. So I want you to start talking about that now. Tell us about your new project and how it goes hand in hand with your current job at Trader Interactive.
Well, yeah, so that I start out that way in case whoever's watching this thinks that I'm making a pitch that I'm leaving what I'm doing something different. That kind of is true and kind of not. I'm definitely not leaving what I do currently. As long as they're going to have me, I hope to stay there. I like what I do with Trader. It's between Cycle Trader, RV Trader, and then all the other products we sell and the things we do in that realm. I'm not leaving that, but what I started doing is I started listening to podcasts, I don't know, a couple years ago. And I'd listen and I'd say, oh man, I get revved up and say, oh, that's totally, I'd love to chip in on that. I kind of always felt like I had a little something to say to it, and maybe we all do. But I kept thinking that I wanted to kind of talk to 23 or 24-year-old Brian either when I got into working at dealerships or when I was at dealerships grinding it out, because that's what it is when you work in retail. A lot of times that's a bit of a grind, and every day you can't always appreciate what you walk into, and you definitely don't come in with a clear perspective. But in what I do now, I end up having to walk in and have conversations with guys, from the main guy you walk in and talk to the owner at these businesses. And I started thinking that I ought to have something that maybe aims to the guys in the middle there, whether it's a power sports dealership and the guy's a parts guy, with something I've done. The guy's a service writer, something I've done. The guy's in sales or management or whatever. I definitely don't claim to have all the experience of a lot of those guys. I've been 20 years walking in and out of dealerships. Some of them I stuck, was shackled, as I said, daily to the dealership, and some I walked in and out several times a day to a dealership. But my podcast is just about, well, I don't know yet. It'll be determined over time. But I'm talking about some examples.
Yeah, so this is really cool because it kind of goes hand in hand with the job you have. I mean, it actually complements what you're doing, I would hope, and you hope that's what the powers that be see it as, just a compliment, because you're adding value to yourself, and you're also, you're directly adding this value to the dealerships you're currently going to visit.
Yes, and I, other than you asking me to fill in for Joe, and then you springing that you're going to bring this up, I haven't been announcing it. I haven't invited a bunch of friends to go like my page or anything like that. So I kind of wanted to just start doing it, as they say, just start, ready, yep. Shoot, aim, that sort of philosophy. I just started, you sent me the link. Hey, here's this thing you can use for making a podcast for free. And I was like, well, I don't have an excuse if I load the podcast and try one and it's horrible, I can go away from it. And of course it was horrible. The first few were pretty horrible, and I'm sure they'll continue to be questionable. But, yeah, so here we go. But it's not to replace my current role. It's just something I'm going to do after hours. Like today's a day off. Maybe I'll record one today if I can think of a story that I feel like will resonate with. Again, it's I'm aiming it at me at 25 years old working at a dealership, and can't wait to go into the dealership, and then you go in there and you get two bad customers in a row that hate your guts for some reason. You just try to help them, and they kick you right in the privates nearly.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think everybody, 24-year-old Brian's all over the world should appreciate that, because now, I mean, you and I both, we can all say, God, I wish I had, known this at 24, or I wish I'd have known that. That would have helped me here, would have helped me there, would have helped me make, reach my goals faster. So I think it's a good thing. I really am excited for you. And I know you'll do well with it. And it's funny because it's not a profit center, is it? Podcast. I mean, it's not. No, it's not a money thing. Maybe
I'd pick up a big sponsor one day, but that's not ultimately what I'm looking to do. And I don't really care to do any of that. I just, like I say, I just want to make sure, thinking about myself and, having kids and thinking about, someone that you can help out, and people to help me out along the way quite a bit. I had a lot of people that, as you, I'm sure, have examples through the industry, people that stepped up to offer a helping hand when you didn't know you needed it, and you did.
Right. And, absolutely. You're one of those people, so I appreciate you for that. Well, and I was going to say, you're doing it for the right reasons. You're not doing it for the money. You're doing it to help the industry. You're doing it to help the industry grow, which I like. Yeah, speaks volumes of your character, my friend.
We'll see where it goes, and hopefully anybody that listens to it, you didn't say the name of it, did you?
I did not.
It's like Secret Squirrel. It's Secret Squirrel. Maybe you'll have to find it.
Which is, and that's okay, because record 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes and don't tell anybody about it. Right. I'm going to listen to it. And you have a new follower here in the live studio audience that actually, we listened to it on the way here. She actually spotted it. It was on the truck on Apple CarPlay, and your face was on the screen of the pickup. And she's like, "Oh, hey, look at that!"
Famous.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
So, it's funny that you say that. it's funny how you do that, because that's what we used to do at the racetrack. I think we had that conversation before when I had the racetrack in Brainerd. We would run 3 or 4 races at the beginning of the season with zero advertising, and it's strictly to get the bugs out. It's to make sure that your staff is up to speed, everything's flowing properly, all your PA systems working. You're getting all the bugs worked out before the season starts, or before the people start coming to watch you screw up and get turned off.
Well,
So
it's
I
like
like what you're doing. I like that they're short, they're sweet, they're to the point. And there's going to be a lot of lessons learned that you don't even realize yet that you're going to really like. You're going to be happy you did these first few.
yeah, it's fun. It's if nothing else, I use it as an area to go and vent and get kind of back and centered before I engage with a client again somewhere. I always, that's always a thing where I say you're a professional if you can walk into, the best sort of interaction with a customer or the worst, and then the follow-up, the one following it is you're right back to centered, which is brutally hard. It's almost impossible to really do, but that's what you shoot for is to get back to, I'm here to serve, establish what's going on, establish, potential fixes for it. So
yeah,
that's what
I think you pointed out in this last one that you have some lessons you learned in that whole deal as well. So
yeah.
You'll definitely have some valuable experience to share. And, just like Joe and I try to admit, I mean, we're not experts. We're just a couple of dudes trying to help everybody out. So
Right.
we're doing what we can and all we know how to do. But if it helps somebody, that's a success.
Yep. Yep.
So at the end of each show, we always, Joe's got his words, attitude of gratitude. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I didn't warn you about this. Now you have to come up with one quick. But before we end this thing, we're at 22 minutes. But we're a little bit early, and that's okay. We'll let you get your coffee and get your kids out of bed and off to school, because I'm sure there's school. Is there school there today? Martin Luther King Day? I don't even know.
There's no school and no work today.
So then you'll let everybody sleep in, and that'll be good.
Maybe I'm surprised. I'm surprised the door hasn't been kicked open at this point. So.
So no, we'll end it on that. But
do you want to answer any questions? I see you've got a couple of things popping up. I can't read them very well, but
I usually shut my comments off. So good idea. Let me see what we got.
Only because if you've got more time.
Good morning, Larry Middleton. Good morning, Chet. Chet Hop's a regular watcher. Larry Middleton's an old Tucker rep that bought a resort literally 10 minutes from my house. Jason Fox says, a large bit of grind. The struggle is real. So true. Vic says, the biggest problem in the industry is we facing are millennials, apathy towards motorsports. How do you bridge the gap between Fortnite and Call of Duty and getting a millennial to buy a new 4-stroke and get outdoors? How do you engage them? Do you want to take that, or do you want me to try?
Well, you give it a shot first. I have my own opinions, but
so my opinion is these kids have never been introduced to motorcycling. So it's hard to do that. And that was, if you saw last week's episode, we talked about, and I can't remember the name of the guy, but Joe shared a video where it talked about branding. And, these motorcycle companies are coming out with these new styles of motorcycles thinking they're going to attract millennials. The problem is they're not putting them in front of millennials, in my opinion. They're putting them in the same motorcycle magazine, and they're telling you and I that, this is going to attract the millennials. And we look at it and go, man, that thing's ugly as hell. So I think they have to somehow maybe put the damn bikes in these games. Maybe that'd be a start.
Well,
but they got to expose these kids to motorcycles first.
I think it's funny because as I currently don't ride a dirt bike as much as I ride an adventure bike, I think it's hilarious because I haven't played a video game in feels like forever. My kids do. But the bike that I ride is so chock full of gizmos and electronic things on it. It's got my phone on the dash. It's got an iPad-sized display on it. It's got cruise control, heated grips, and all this nonsense,
Yeah.
So it's funny because I think, how do we connect them to that? I think I don't know. Do we make the machines more interesting? Do you have to have a phone attached to it? Do they have to have, some sort of special little Google glasses built into their goggles that's showing them real-time display information? I don't know, but I definitely know that some of the games, that we compete with, the sort of the feelings that people will get by playing those games have gotten to the level it's pretty outrageous level of realism. So that's a lot of competition. And the bad news is that what we're asking them to do instead is, what do they say? Fought with peril and danger,
Yeah.
the stuff you actually get hurt in. So, but I think, like you're saying, more exposure. I keep seeing the commercial for the new Supercross game, and it looks awesome. My kids immediately asking me, "Daddy, are you going to get that game?" And I'm like, I don't know when I'd play it. I don't have time to play a game, but maybe we'll get it for you guys. So I don't have the answer, but I think just continuing, I think dealerships are one of the key areas that they need to reach out a little bit deeper, ask a little bit more for whether it's a demo ride on a parking lot with hay bales on the side and little CRF50s, whatever that is. I think there needs to be more outreach that way, whether it's at a dealership or off-site.
Yeah, yeah. There needs to be more exposure, and it's hard to get these kids off the games because that's all they know at this point. Um, if you're a parent that rides and your kid is playing the games, maybe take the kid for a ride. And don't show them how good of a rider you are. Go nice and slow so they're comfortable, because it is a very scary experience for somebody that has not been on a motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's a tough one, and we've been fighting with this industry for long enough, and we need to start taking steps in the right direction.
I'd like to think that with like power sports and motorcycling, obviously, I'd like to think that the pretend experience that may be more exciting, more exhilarating. That's all they've experienced, and it definitely plugs in at a lot of levels to somebody to be like, wow, this is the experience. I'd like to think that at some point, the equivalent story I'm trying to give is, I'm in digital advertising, and everything's digital, and that's where people are. They're on their phones and the computers like we are right now. And that's the area where you want to reach everybody. If you've got a message, I've got a message that's in motorcycles, and where do you put it? You put it on a platform like ours. But that being said, I have, a dealer having an event in the local area, and they go and spend a little money on a mailer campaign. That's not what I sell. But what's
Right.
funny is when I see an actual mailer show up on my mailbox, how unique and special is that? So I think sometimes the pendulum will shift. Not that I'm saying motorcycling has to come back from digital, a pretend digital experience of it, but I think, the kids are a little bit guinea pigged right now. They're being tested to these level of games, and I think at some level the real experience will come back in the pendulum.
Yep.
That'd be
No,
my guess.
that's really cool. And as you're talking there, I'm thinking, of these kids. They know what guns do what, and how much they shoot, and how fast they shoot, and what caliber they are, and they know more about these guns. Maybe we need to have some really cool motorcycle games funded by the industry
Well,
and make them. I mean, I don't know what the answer is, but get them involved. That's what we have to do somehow.
yep.
And we need to go where they are,
Mm-hmm.
and reach out to them, not necessarily wait for them to come to us, because that's not going to happen, because they're not leaving
Well,
the couch.
it's funny. I know we only have a couple more minutes, so I don't want to keep you over your time, but it's funny that Yamaha, I don't know if you keep up on the newer bikes, because I'm not riding a new motocross bike, but I've got, a new adventure bike. Yamaha came out, I think, in 2018 with a big push on their YZ450 motocross bike. And it was a big push because you could change all the settings on it with your phone. So it had an app that you
Sure.
could tune the power curves and everything, which is outrageous. But, would we have thought that would happen, 10 years ago? No, but you'd wished for that reality to exist. But what's funny is when that thing launched, for me, I can look in my territory at what the top interest motorcycles are, and that thing dominated. And I'd go
Really?
and I'd ask some of my dealers, I'd say, hey, why did that surprise you? If it's a dealer that sells that bike, if they're not selling Yamaha, they'd be like, yeah, we've heard a lot about it. If it's a Yamaha dealer, they're like, yeah, there's been a ton of buzz about it. And it's interesting because I think that's a level of interaction that may not satisfy the exact direct connection, of the game and the gameplay. But for somebody that's getting slightly older, that the gameplay is, maybe not as hot, we'd like to think, as they get a little bit to be like an adult. But maybe that sort of a connection, connecting the rider and the bike and the electronics, the cyborg, as we will, making you into a cyborg.
Right. That's interesting, because I never had heard of the app for the YZ450. So
Yep.
they could do that with little bikes, and kids could be controlled by their parents and how fast they go. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, that's all our time. That would be a great topic, actually, for an entire show, actually. So that's something I'm gonna have to write down and look into. See if
I'll join you and Joe in the comments on that one if I'm awake at this point in that show.
There you go. There you go. Well, Brian, thank you for your time this morning.
Yep.
Give us your final word, and we're gonna log out.
Dealership Fix It. If you're so inclined, you work at a shop and you want to check out the show, it's a podcast, Dealership Fix It. If you don't work at a shop, you probably won't think it's too exciting.
The cat is out of the bag. Give them time, folks. It gets way better, and the last one sounds even better than the second. So.
Just listen to the last one.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Greg.
For the rest of you guys, thanks for watching. Share this out there. Tell everybody about it. Go out there this week and kick some ass. Is my studio audience paying attention? Woo! Hey! All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good week.
Thanks. See you.
Thanks, Brian.